Okay, welcome to ICSC Tool Time, and we have a wonderful panel today. We have Russ back here, Russ Schoen from Chicago. We have Roger Firestein from Williamsville. We have Mike Fox from Military Road, and I'm Susan Keller-Mathers, and this is CRS 670 class, and some of our alumni. So welcome to all of our discussion members today. We're going to go through quite a few tools today and just talk about what are some tips, best practices, how to use it effectively, and also we're going to look at some of the applications.
So this is PPCo, pluses, potentials, concerns, overcome concerns. One of my all-time favorite tools, which was developed, that's right, in their early 80s. Is that right, Dr.
That's correct.
Firestein?
82, 83, yeah.
Yeah, by our very own Roger Firestein, Diane Fukursaki, if I say that right,
That's
and Bill
right.
Shepard.
And Bill Shepard, right.
And this is a power tool. And this is a tool that, in my opinion, after trainings, facilitations, years later, people still refer back to it.
Yeah.
And how it works is it's really designed to help optimize or refine ideas and specifically strengthen them. So how it works is you look at an idea or recommendation and you're very deliberate about what are the pluses, what's good about the idea. You do a mini divergence on that to get a couple of things that are really good about the idea or the recommendation as it stands now. Then you move on to potentials, and these are really future positives or future benefits, spin-offs that might result, that if this idea went forward, what else might be possible? And again, a mini divergence. Once you've finished with potentials, you move on to concerns, and the notion here is that no new idea is perfect out of the gate, but list the concerns as an open-ended question. And so you would get a concern, and you may have to model it, how to turn that concern into a how-to question. So for example, if you had an idea with a group and one of the concerns was we don't have enough funding, you may ask them to turn it into a how-to statement. And you may have to model it, how to get funding. And so you do sort of a mini divergence on what are all the concerns. And then lastly, the overcome is you have the client really start to pick the top concern, and then you brainstorm ideas to overcome that concern. And then you'll move on to the next concern. And so PPCo is really useful both individually and very useful with a group. That's PPCo in a nutshell, but I'm going to turn it to Roger to, give his expert tips and builds.
Russ, I think that's terrific. Yeah, I just, and just kind of the concept behind it is, when you took a look at the Foresight model, it's a developer tool, and I like to use the phrase it's used to sort of polish out the rough spots in an idea. Also, as Russ alluded to, you start with an idea or a concept, the idea gets better, you overcome the concerns, and then you develop a new and improved statement of the idea. So, Russ, great explanation. Yeah, right on the money. Yeah.
So we could use these for more novel ideas as well, and really to play with it and keep open to the novelty of something. And because it really builds that affirmative judgment, if we think about the dynamic balance between the defermative judgment when you're generating and the affirmative judgment that's needed to make some decisions, this particular tool is probably the best one to help model that.
The other thing is, too, is you can use it, as you mentioned, individually. You can use it as just a critique tool. I have art teachers that are using it for critiques. Performance evaluations look great. You were mentioning, you want to tell that story?
My daughter in the house?
Or about Sam and,
yes.
and a patient, yeah.
With his parents?
No,
I'm sorry.
Tell the story.
Wasn't your husband doing something with a patient with pluses, potentials, concerns, or his parents?
No, it was with his dad.
Okay, yeah.
So he was talking about parenting techniques and mentioned that we should be using PPCo for when we want to have a conversation with our kids about evaluating their behavior. However, there is a problem with that because then the kids use it with you. And we were recently about to purchase a house, and we took the kids to see it, and when we came home, we had a lot of guests in the house and we couldn't have a conversation around it. So my daughter sat down and created a PPCo around this idea of buying that house, and she emailed it to us. And then just dropped a word in our ear that we might want to check it out. And she had some really interesting points of view. And as a result of that PPCo, we actually did not buy the house. And we ended up waiting for something better.
And yes, I think that's a really good point, because people will say to me, well, you do this PPCo thing, and then does that mean that you're going to do the idea? And actually it's not. It's an evaluation tool. And when you find if you've got too many concerns and you can't overcome those concerns, hey, we're not going to do it. But you haven't gone out of the gate and implemented the idea, and then the concerns come up to bite you. So yeah, it's a really great tool to examine the whole field around it. So it doesn't mean that you're going to do that idea. What it means is we're going to evaluate the idea. So use it in a variety of ways that way.
So this is one of those tools that you live. So
it's
if
great.
you're in creative studies and you really believe in keeping open and defermative judgment, there are things that you do when ideas or situations come in which you don't judge quickly. Also very much key is that when you are presented with something in a formal or informal situation, you begin to look at, I mean, naturally we're going to think of the things that that are wrong with it. And then you continue to think further, and then the conversation begins with the positive.
The thing is, too, is that when you're working with a client, they need to do the pluses and the potentials first. As Sue mentioned, they just can't leap to the concerns like what they always do. And so you really have to enforce that. And as Russ said, this is one of those things that this technique sticks, but it asks you to be really conscious about how you're dealing with an idea. Here's the strengths, here's the potential, here's the concerns, but the concerns are phrased in a way that you can do something about them to overcome them.
Mikey, and then we'll see if anyone can tell us why they like this tool. What is it they use it for?
When it comes to the concerns part, because they're already stated in a problem statement format, if they're chosen for an attempt to overcome the concern, you don't have to recraft it. Makes it very nice. Most of the challenges that come up under the C, the concerns, are formulaic in nature. There's a policy in place. That might literally be a formula. There's the Nike commercial statement, just do it, that sort of thing. But when you have a key concern, the one that I call the deal breaker, that's the one that I pay attention to in an attempt to overcome. And in the end, some ideas deserve a good throwing away.
As is mentioned.
Yeah,
we're just not going
it's
to
just-
do that. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we've looked at it. Yeah.
Investigated it, and people feel comfortable about it. And out of all the tools that I have used, the ones that the clients come back to me with are, I really like that PPC.
Yeah. It works great.
We've been using it as an outline for writing persuasive essays. So when they have to take a stand about something, then they start out writing in their outline why it's a good idea and what else might come out of it. And then they kind of take the wind out of the opponent's sails by saying, you know, I'm aware that there are things that are wrong with this, and these might be some of the concerns that you have, and here are some ways that we mitigate those. And so the kids use it to write their
great.
essays, and they really get a lot of points for that.
Wow, that's great.
Can I just say one more thing? Sure. As far as being a facilitator, I don't know if anyone, I can be honest, I've been in sessions where I'm just like working up a sweat trying to get people. And so when we finally get something that seems like a great idea, the PPCo is like getting into a warm bath. Like,
Neat.
we're here.
Yeah.
Now, what are the pluses? Well, and I've used it like that before just because then, and like we said, it's really a nice way to put it out in front, see what's going on, see if we like it, see. And it just, as far as, I know the client loves it, but just as a facilitator, I know like I'm at that home stretch where this is something we can work with or we don't. Okay, well at least when we know we are, let's start again. So I love the tool.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because there is that kind of a thing that clicks when you get to that stage. It's like, okay, there's the idea.
Right.
We'll take a breath now. Okay, now
Right.
what do you like about it? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really
to dig in.
creates a
Yes.
pause there. It's
Yes.
a place to kind of reset in the process. Yeah, neat. Yeah.
Tracy?
I was also thinking, you kind of just made me think of that, Izzy, as a way for teachers to use it, evaluating themselves after administrators come in and observe them. It could be a nice evaluation thing to hand back to the administrators.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, and we do that with facilitated, facilitators, so. All right, excellent. Well, that is the PPCo. Oh, you have one more?
It's also a wonderful visual representation, actually, of due process, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
And one of my classmates, I think, coined it perfectly. She said it was like the little black dress of your creative toolbox. That's what it was. Mary Culpepper.
That's funny.
All right, excellent.